Welcome to the video tutorial on how to write a filter script for PageGate. Before you go through this video, you'll first want to determine what you want filtered and how you want to filter it. Is this an inbound filter or an outbound filter? Are you scanning reply messages for keywords or key phrases? Are you monitoring a CAD system's input for special calls? Do you want to change the visible sender of the message based on what the message says? What you want to do will directly determine the code that you use in the script. Before we get into how to write a script, I'd like to show you what a complete script looks like and also show you a portion of the documentation you want to keep for reference. In a web browser, go to www.notepage.net. On the left-hand side, click the Support section, then PageGate Support, and Manual/Documentation. Click the link for PageGate Server Online Manual. On the left-hand side of the documentation, expand How PageGate Accepts Messages and Filter Pack. Expand, then click on Complete Script Examples. There are a few examples in the list here, and you'll definitely want to review them all for ideas on how to implement different scripts, but the one we're interested in is example number 8. This is what a complete script looks like. In this example, PageGate is scanning the sending phone number in all replies sent to the system, and it matches that against a list of allowed phone numbers. If the phone number isn't on the list, the message is considered spam and not delivered. If the phone number is on the list of allowed numbers, the reply is allowed through the system. To do this, we have a single filter statement. And within that filter statement, we have a search and replace section. The search section tells it to scan the phone number of the sender and match it against a list of phone numbers. The replace section says that if the phone number is in the list of allowed senders, the message should be allowed to go to the specified recipient or group. So, let's get into actually writing a filter script. The first step is to create a new XML file and determine where you want that file stored. This file can be named anything, but do remember what you call the file. You'll need to reference it later. This file can be stored in any path accessible by the PageGate server, whether that's a local hard drive path or a UNC path to a shared directory. However, if this file is stored on a network share, you will need to give the PageGate Scheduler, PageGate Interface, and/or PageGate Connectors Windows services an appropriate service account to access the network resource. In this example, I'm going to name the file newscript.xml and store it in the /PageGateData/scripts folder. It is possible to have multiple scripts in use on the same PageGate server, as you can create as many XML files as you need. This XML file controls what the filter script does and what steps it takes to accomplish the desired results. To start, let's go over the filter script's basic XML structure. First, we have filter blocks. The filter section determines what you want to do with the data read as input. A single filter script may reference multiple individual filter blocks to perform multiple tasks within the same dataset. It's also important to note that the filter system supports the use of regex, allowing for a high level of customization and control. You'll build filter block sections, and each filter section will determine a step in scanning for information and processing your data. Each filter block contains a search block, which tells the filter what to look for, and a replace block, which tells the filter what to do with the data it's found. Now, that being called a replace block can be a little misleading because you can do far more than simply replace search data. You could store the matched data in a temporary variable to call for output or modification later. You could use the instance of finding the searched pattern to set a true or false flag. There are many things you can do with a replace section. To dig into the search section, though, the search section contains 3 values that will need to be specified: section, type, and text. Section determines where in the data this filter statement needs to look. Before we get into the specific values that can be set, let's go over why certain names are the way they are for PageGate. PageGate's standard format is as follows: with the first line being the recipient, second line being the sender, and third line being the message. However, to be explicit, that is line 1, carriage return line feed, line 2, carriage return line feed, lines 3 and following. So from PageGate's basic perspective, the first line of data is called the recipient section, whether or not any recipient information is found there. The second line is called the sender section, again, whether or not any sender information is found there. The third and following lines are the message section. Effectively, think of recipient as just the first line of data, sender as just the second line of data, and message as the third and following lines of data. To get back to the values that can be set for a section, this can be set to all, recipient, sender, message, temp, or flag. All tells it to scan the entire input data, recipient tells it to scan just the first line, sender tells it to scan just the second line, message tells it to scan the third and following lines. Temp is a string variable. In your filter script, you can write matched values to the temp variable and then use it later for additional searches or replacements. For example, you can have certain information stored in the temp variable and then search on and output that temp value in successive filter statements. And lastly, we have flag. Flag is another temporary variable that you can have the script assign values to. However, it is a Boolean variable and can only hold a true or false value. It can be used with Boolean logic like AND or OR statements to create advanced logic chains. Next we have type. Type determines what sort of information the filter should expect to see in the following text section. This can be set to regex or literal. If the type is set to regex, the value in the text section will be expected to be in regex. If the type is set to literal, the value in the text section will be expected to be literal characters and won't expect any regex expressions. For example, you could enter the text fire department in the text section if you want the filter to key off of that literal sequence of alphanumeric characters. It's also important to note that the text section supports using Boolean parameters, and they can be found in the filter script section of the documentation. Next we have the replace section. The replace block determines what you want to do with the data found in search and contains 5 values that will need to be specified: section, type, scope, all, and text. Section determines where in the data this filter statement needs to look and can be set to the following values: all, recipient, sender, message, temp, and flag. All tells the filter to replace any instance of the search text within the entire dataset read from the input. Recipient tells the filter to replace only values in the first line of the file. Sender tells the filter to replace values only in the second line, and message tells the filter to replace values only in the third and following lines. Temp is a string variable that can be passed strings of characters to hold, then use its value to search on later. Temp does not support Boolean operators. For example, you can have certain information stored in the temp value, then both search on and output that temp value in successive filter tags. Flag is a Boolean value that can only hold a true or false statement. However, you can run AND or OR statements against it for advanced logic chains. Next we have type. Type determines what sort of information the filter should expect to see in the following text section and can be set to the following values: literal, regex, OR, and AND. If type is set to regex, the value in the text section will need to be a regex expression. If the value flag is used in section, then one of the Boolean operators, AND or OR, can be used in the type section. They will use this operator and the new text section value to modify the flag variable. For example, in one filter section, you could set a flag to true if certain text is found. In the next filter section, you could search for different text and update the flag variable using the AND or OR in the type section, depending on if you want the new flags variable to signify if both the first text searched and the second text search were found, or if either were found. For a more specific example of this, see example 3 in the Complete Scripts Examples section. If type is set to literal, the filter will expect a literal text value in the text section and won't expect regex. The Scope section tells the filter how much data to replace if a match is found. It can be set to a value of either match or section. If Scope is set to match, only the text found in the search section will be replaced. If Scope is set to section, then all the text and the data specified by the section will be replaced. For example, you could search for the text Fire Department and then set section to recipient and scope to section. This would tell the script to replace the recipient section with the new text, effectively telling the script, if you find this text in the body, change the recipient to the value specified. Next we have the All section. This section tells the script whether it should replace all matches found or just the first match found, and can be set to true or false. For example, if you're searching for the word pills, and that word appears multiple times in the data, if all is set to true, the replacement will happen for all instances of the word pills. If all is set to false, the replacement will only replace the first instance of the word pills. Next we have the Text section. This section, of course, controls the text used to make the replacement, and the type of information you can use in this section is controlled by the Type section. As an example for the Text section, you could enter the text Fire Department if you wanted the filter to replace the text found in the Search section with that literal string of alphanumeric characters. This section also supports using a list of variables that can be found in the documentation. For examples on how to construct replace statements, have a look at the complete script examples in our PageGate documentation. Finally, our last two sections are Continue and Abort. The Continue block tells the script whether or not you want the script to continue to the next section if it finds a match, and can be set to true or false. Abort can be set to true or false, and tells the script to abort its processes if no match is found or if your criteria aren't met. So to review how to write a script, you'll create filter blocks that must contain search and replace blocks and may also contain continue or abort blocks. Search blocks must contain a reference to section, type, and text. Replace blocks must contain a reference to section, type, scope, all, and text. Continue sections tell the script whether or not there are multiple filter blocks and whether the script should continue or stop. Abort sections tell the script to abort its processes if a searched value can't be found. This concludes the video tutorial on how to build a filter script. For more information, including examples of what different coded scripts look like, have a look at our documentation and video tutorial library.